Hello everyone, my name is Heather, and this channel is Heather Travels, where I make videos all about every aspect of the travel experience. If that is something that interests you, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question that I got from a viewer. This was a very specific Walt Disney World Resort question. This viewer asked me, during a busy time at Walt Disney World, and unfortunately busy times at Walt Disney World are getting harder and harder to avoid. It's kind of all year long, but there are definitely times that are busier than others. Which Walt Disney World on-site resort would be better? And they specifically asked me to compare Pop Century Resort, which is a value resort, and Port Orleans French Quarter. Now, I made videos about both of these resorts, and I'm actually the perfect person to ask this specific question because I have experience doing a split stay of those two resorts over Thanksgiving week of 2022. So in Thanksgiving of 2022, the whole week of Thanksgiving, first my son and I flew down to Walt Disney World and we stayed at Pop Century Resort, the two of us. And then my daughter flew down later because she had a couple extra days of class and my son gets the whole week off. And she met us there. She actually ended up coming a day earlier than we originally planned. So she spent one night in a room by herself at Pop Century. And then we all switched to Port Orleans French Quarter for the rest of the time. And all three of us were in one room. I will actually put the entire playlist from that trip at the end of this video if you want to go back and watch it. So we actually stayed at a very busy time over Thanksgiving week at both of those resorts. That was our first time that we stayed at Port Orleans French Quarter. We have stayed at Port Orleans Riverside before, and those two used to actually be one big resort that was called Dixie Landings originally, and now it's split into two and they have slightly different theming and atmosphere. I like both. One advantage to Port Orleans French Quarter over Port Orleans Riverside is that Port Orleans French Quarter has a much smaller footprint and is easier to walk around, whereas Port Orleans Riverside is bigger and really spread out. And you might want to actually consider having a car if you're going to be staying at Port Orleans Riverside. The one time we did stay at Riverside, I was disappointed that we didn't have a car because the only way to get anywhere to any park from Port Orleans Riverside is to take buses, and we had to be on the bus all the way around. There were multiple stops within Port Orleans Riverside where the bus would have to stop and drop people off and pick them up, and it's a really spread out resort, so that's something to keep in mind for that one. But in this video, I want to compare these two specific resorts that this person asked about, and I want to offer to you, if you have two Walt Disney World Resort hotels that you are weighing, that you're trying to decide between for your upcoming trip to Walt Disney World, leave them in the comments if you want me to do another comparison video between two other resorts, and I will do that for you. I have been to, I may have visited all of them with a couple exceptions here and there. So I can give you some good advice about the pros and cons of each resort to help you choose. So if you're interested in me doing that, if you have a couple of resorts that you're trying to decide between, leave it in the comments and I will definitely make another video like this for you to help you make a better informed decision. For these two specific resorts, there are definitely some pros and cons to each of them. Both resorts, I would say, and again, we're talking about Disney's Pop Century Resort and we're talking about Disney's Port Orleans French Quarter Resort. Size-wise, they're very similar. They're pretty similar in size. They're very similar in walkability. They both are like all value resorts and all moderate resorts because Pop Century is a value resort and Port Orleans French Quarter is a moderate resort. They have outside passageways and the doors open from the outside. So there's no interior hallways. They both have like a main building where the reception area is. I think they both have an arcade. They both have a food court, a gift shop in that main reception area building. So they're very similar that way. Neither one has a table service restaurant. They both just have a food court. They both have multiple pools, actually. Port Orleans French Quarter does have a slide at their main pool. So there is like a slide that kids, well, adults too, anybody can go down. It's a sea serpent slide. And then they have a couple other quiet pools scattered throughout. And at Pop Century, they have some bigger pools and there are no slides. So if that's important to you. And I don't think either hotel has any hot tubs. There's the big main pool at Pop Century right when you come out of the back of the main building. The Hippy Dippy pool, I think that one is. And then there's another pool farther back that's shaped like a bowling pin near the 50s section. So there's two really big, sizable pools. They both have they should. I haven't actually found it at Port Orleans French Quarter, but they should both have on-site laundry for guests to use. I know where it is in Pop Century. And they both have very nice theming, but the theming is very different. At Port Orleans French Quarter, it's themed to New Orleans. So it's like the French Quarter in New Orleans. And it really does look like the French Quarter in New Orleans because we've been there too. It's like you're walking. It's like there's the streets and then also the sidewalks and you're walking around the French Quarter. It's kind of neat. And they have, jazz music playing and the beads and stuff like that. And it feels like you're in New Orleans. So if you like that theming, the rooms are very pretty. At Pop Century, it's very bright and colorful, and they have these big, giant pop culture icons all over the place. So like there's Lady and the Tramp and a giant foosball game, and it's like you're shrunken down really tiny, and a giant Mickey telephone and a big wheel and stuff like that. And so there's all sorts of big, colorful things all around. And each set of buildings at Pop Century is themed to a different decade in the 20th century. The 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But in my experience, the rooms, we've stayed in almost all of them, and the rooms in every building are the same. So you're not getting anything different inside. It's just the outside of the building is themed a little different. So as far as like comparing the resorts and what they offer, there's really not a lot of difference. The things that you're going to want to compare are location, transportation, theming, but that's just a personal preference thing, and the rooms themselves. First, let me talk to you about the rooms. And this is a general difference between any value resort and any moderate resort. What I tell you about Pop Century is the same for other value resorts at Walt Disney World too. The rooms at Pop Century are the smallest rooms on property. They have a very small square footage. It's pretty tight in there in those rooms. The bathrooms are decent, and almost all of the value resorts now have been completely renovated, and the rooms are nice. They have wood floors and this really nice clean white furniture. It's kind of shiny, cool pull down beds so that when you have the bed up, the second bed, you have a table and chairs and some space to walk around. It's more that when you have that second bed down that it gets really tight in those rooms. And I've never stayed in a value resort with more than 3 people, but even for the 3 of us, we're all adult people basically, it's pretty tight and like hard to move around. And if you have a lot of large luggage, it can be kind of challenging at Pop Century in one of those rooms. We do fine, but they're pretty small. In both Pop Century and Port Orleans French Quarter, you have 2 queen beds, but at Pop Century, one of them is, like a regular bed permanently on the floor. The other one is a Murphy bed that comes down out of the wall. You can easily pull it up and down yourself. It's no problem. At French Quarter, there are 2 regular queen size beds that are next to each other all the time. You also have a little more space and furniture, if you will, in the room at French Quarter. There is a permanently sitting there table and chairs, whereas at Pop Century, the table and chairs disappear when you pull that Murphy bed down because they're actually part of the bed that is like the support for it when it's down. And so then you lose the use of your table and chairs. I mean, you can pull the chairs out and still sit on the chairs, but you can't sit them at the table when the bed is down. So that's a difference. There's also like a bench that you can sit on at French Quarter, and the room just in general is just a little bit larger. And then there's a difference in the bathrooms. At Pop Century, there is a sliding door across that separates the bathroom from the bedroom. And then within that, there is another sliding pocket door that separates the sink area from the tub or shower and toilet room, and you can lock that door. At French Quarter, there's just a curtain across that you pull across to separate the bathroom from the bedroom. And then I think there is a regular door between the sink area and the toilet and shower or tub. I think it's a door, like a regular closing door. And then the other main difference is that the bathrooms in value resorts like Pop Century only have one sink. It's a very nice sink. It's big, but there's only one. Whereas the bathrooms at moderate resorts such as French Quarter have two sinks, bigger counter area and two side-by-side sinks in the bathroom. So if that's important to you and you want to, like 2 people to be able to get ready in the morning or at night, know that Port Orleans, French Quarter, and other moderate resorts have 2 sinks in the bathroom. Okay, so that's the difference between the rooms. Mainly, it's a difference in the bathrooms and a difference in space. Let's talk about location and transportation and relate that specifically to the fact that this viewer asked about visiting during a busy week of the year. Being a moderate resort and a value resort, these are not prime locations. The deluxe resorts are the ones that you're really going to have the really good locations that are very close to a park. Pop Century is, I'll put a map up here so you can kind of see where they are. But Pop Century is, I've stayed there both with and without a car. And I can see in my mind like how I drive it. It's very close to some places and not as close to others. And Port Orleans French Quarter is pretty close to EPCOT. Am I thinking about that right? I don't know. Study the map and you'll see what I mean. Okay, but let's talk about transportation. At Port Orleans French Quarter, there is a boat that you can take down the Sassagoula River to Disney Springs. So if you think you're going to want to spend some time at Disney Springs shopping, dining, going bowling, going to the AMC movie theater, going to Cirque du Soleil, which we did in 2022, I would recommend Port Orleans French Quarter or Port Orleans Riverside or Old Key West, because the boat goes to all of those and then on to Disney Springs. So being able to take that boat to Disney Springs, in addition to being a convenient transportation option, is also very relaxing and pretty. It's a really nice boat ride. We've actually gone there and just ridden the boat just for fun, even when we weren't staying at one of those resorts. But beyond the boat to Disney Springs, Port Orleans French Quarter does not have any other means of transportation to get you to a park. So the only way you can get to a park on Disney transportation, which is all free, is buses. So you're going to have to take a bus if you want to go to any of the 4 theme parks or the water parks from Port Orleans French Quarter. Now, because Port Orleans French Quarter has that smaller footprint, it does only have one central bus stop, and the only people that it's taking most of the time are people that are staying at French Quarter. Unlike sometimes like at the value all-star resorts and stuff, you might be sharing a bus with another resort, but you're not usually at French Quarter. It's just a dedicated French Quarter bus, and there's only one bus stop because there's not very much distance to walk to any building at French Quarter from the bus stop or the main building. When we stayed at French Quarter, we did not use the buses. We did use the boat to Disney Springs, but we had a car and we drove to all the parks in a car. You don't need a car at French Quarter because, like I said, it's very walkable. But for us, we just happened to have a car on that trip and we parked in the parking lot and it was fine. At Pop Century, there's something there that I feel is a huge advantage, and that is the Disney Skyliner. The Disney Skyliner is an elevated gondola like you'll see in the mountains at ski resorts and stuff like that, that connects Pop Century and Art of Animation at the end of one of the lines. And then the Skyliner goes to Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, which is another moderate resort. And that's where the main station is for the Disney Skyliner. Everybody has to get off at Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. Everybody on all 3 lines. So the 3 lines are, one line goes from Caribbean Beach, Pop Century, and Art of Animation. Another line goes from Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort to Hollywood Studios. And then the third line goes from Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort to EPCOT. So you can get to 2 parks on the Skyliner, Hollywood Studios and EPCOT. And so if you plan on spending even one day or any significant amount of time at either Hollywood Studios or EPCOT, then Pop Century is great. If you plan on staying at any of the resorts that are on the Skyliner line, that can be really handy too. Now, if you are afraid of heights and you don't like the idea of riding in that gondola car, which I've heard that from plenty of people, then I would not recommend that because you're going to be too freaked out and you're not going to want to do it. But we love the Skyliner and we take full advantage of the Skyliner. And this last time in Thanksgiving of 2023, when we stayed at Pop Century, our room was very close to the Skyliner station. So we took the Skyliner at every opportunity we had because we love it. And it's fast, lovely views. It's nice in there. It's really nice form of transportation. I think it's one of the best things that Walt Disney World has added in a long time. So if you plan to go to EPCOT at all on your stay, or you plan to go to Hollywood Studios at all on your stay, I would recommend Pop Century. If you don't plan to visit either of those resorts, or you plan on spending significantly more time at either Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom, then it might make you want to lean more toward French Quarter because of maybe some of the advantages of the room size and stuff like that. Another kind of advantage with Pop Century and having the Skyliner right there is that you enter EPCOT from the back of the park at the International Gateway. That's a less busy entrance than the main entrance at the front, in front of Spaceship Earth. I'm going to link this video because that ended up being an advantage for me because I needed a scooter, an ECV, on our last trip, on the last day when we went to EPCOT. And I was worried because the previous year when we had gotten to EPCOT, all of the scooters at the front entrance were gone because it was so busy. It was Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving. And I was really worried about that. But when we got to the rear entrance at International Gateway, because we came on the Skyliner, there were still plenty of wheelchair scooters and strollers left at that entrance because it's a less busy entrance and there's fewer people coming in that way. Both resorts are very nice resorts. We've had very positive stays at both Pop Century and Port Orleans French Quarter. I would highly recommend either one. It's really going to depend on your traveling party. How many people do you have? If you have younger kids, I would recommend Pop Century more. Unless they really want to slide at the pool, then go to French Quarter. But the colorful, bright stuff, and it's very kid-friendly, feels more Disney, if you will, at Pop Century. French Quarter's a little bit more grown-up, a little just nicer. Or if people are interested in New Orleans or the South or something like that, then you might want to go to French Quarter. And then just those slight differences that I talked about with the rooms, and depending on which parks and locations you think you're going to spend more time at. If you plan on spending more time at EPCOT or Hollywood Studios, then I would recommend Pop Century. If you plan on going to Disney Springs, I would recommend French Quarter. So I hope that helps you, and definitely go back and check out all of my videos that I made at both of those resorts. I have tours of both resorts on my channel, and hopefully that can give you a better idea of what it's like at both of those resorts. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it was helpful. If you enjoyed it at all, please be sure to give me a thumbs up down below. And again, if you have other resorts that you would like me to compare the pros and cons to at Walt Disney World, leave those in the comments below and I will make another video like this comparing them in the future. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.